Vethkari came to collect. That was how they described it among themselves. Not invasion, not conquest, not predation, collection. As if humanity were a debt they'd been patient about for long enough. Mara Solis had heard a lot of words for what was happening. She preferred none of them. She stood at the window of a transit hotel on the outskirts of what used to be Thessaloniki and watched the sky do things that skies weren't built to do. Fold pulse, discharge lighting columns the color of old bruises. Somewhere below, the street ran with people moving in the purposeless shuffle of the very frightened. She watched them the way a surgeon watches a patient, with focus but without feeling. Feelings were expensive. She hadn't been able to afford them for years. Mara. Dex's voice from the bathroom. Running water. He was always running water. As if hygiene were a thing that mattered now. Still here, she said. The extraction window closes in 40 minutes. The Vethkari lock the rail corridors. They won't, she said it without certainty, only habit. She was good at that. Her whole life had been a performance of certainty she didn't feel. Dex appeared in the doorway, younger than her by 8 years, put him at 29, though he looked more like 40 since the landings. His jaw was tight. He held a data card in 2 fingers the way you'd hold a dead insect. The mark is already downstairs. She turned from the window. Then we go down. The mark was named Thesros, and Thesros was not human. That was the thing nobody had warned them about when they'd taken the contract. The most lucrative job of their particular ugly little career, passed to them through 3 layers of desperate intermediaries, and denominated in emergency. Credits that were currently the only currency that moved. Extract the data core. Data core was being carried by a Vethkari cultural assessor named Thesros, who had defected or claimed to, or was pretending to, was the word that made Mara's skin crawl, evaluating humanity's response to defection as an additional data point. She didn't know. She couldn't read them. Nobody could. Thesros stood near the lobby's far wall, which was where the vending machines used to be before someone had smashed them for the sugar inside. The alien was approximately spur-shaped. That was the thing that unsettled humans most about the Vethkari, that they were approximately person-shaped, like a sketch of something human rather than a copy. 2 limbs for walking, 2 for manipulation. A head-like structure above, but the proportions were slightly wrong in a way that punished prolonged looking. And the material of them, the skin, if it was skin, had a quality of depth that made it seem like looking at still water, like something might be below. Thesros wore a coat. That was the other thing. They wore a coat, and it was a good coat, and it fit. Mara had stopped trying to pass what that meant. "You are the retrieval specialists," Thesros said. "Not a question." The voice came from somewhere that wasn't quite the mouth, or maybe the mouth moved differently than she expected. The words were perfect. The Vethkari had cracked human languages in 3 weeks after the landings. They found language easy. It was everything else about humans they seemed to struggle with. "We are," said Dex. He was doing his professional voice. Mara let him. "You are afraid of me," Thesros said. "Also not a question. We're cautious," Mara said. "There's a difference." "Is there?" The head-like structure tilted. "I have been told there is a difference. I have been told many things about how humans distinguish fear from other states. I have been conducting my own research." A pause, fractional and strange. "The research has been inconclusive." They moved to a private room off the lobby, a place that had been a conference room and still had the laminated agendas from a quarterly review on the wall. Mara felt the absurdity of it, the way she always felt the absurdity of things in the current world, as a low hum at the back of her skull that she had learned to ignore. The data core was what they needed. It contained Thesros's collected cultural assessments. Everything the Vethkari had compiled about humanity in the 18 months since landing. Humans ate, what humans feared, what humans chose when choices were ugly, what humans did when their children were sick, their parents were dying, or their birthdays came and nobody called. The kind of data that in the right hands tell the Vethkari High Command exactly where to press to break humanity's collective will. Thesros had, for reasons that remained murky, decided not to deliver it. "You are wondering," the alien said, settling into a chair with that slightly wrong geometry of movement. "Why?" "The job brief covered why," Mara said. "You want something. We provide a service. We collect the data core and route it to the resistance network. Standard." The brief covered the mechanics. Thesros looked at her. The eyes, call them eyes, had an unsettling steadiness, like something that had never needed to blink, because blinking was a vulnerability evolution had never pressed it toward. "It did not cover the why. It is a simplification. It is not accurate." "It doesn't need to be accurate," Dex said. "It needs to be enough." Thesros was quiet for a moment. "Then, your partner believes in simplification as a tool. You believe in it as a weapon. You are not the same." Mara looked at the alien with something she hadn't felt in some time, genuine attention, unmediated by professional assessment. "You've been studying us. For 8 months. In this city. In 17 other cities simultaneously. I have what you would call colleagues. Each carry a data core." The alien's coat shifted. "Underneath, along the ribcage. If it had a ribcage, something pulsed faintly with bioluminescence. I was chosen for this region because my assessors believe I am temperamentally suited to populations under stress. Believe I can remain objective." A pause that felt deliberate. "I was not prepared for certain specifics." "Specifics," Mara said. 18 days ago," said Thesros, "I observed a human woman in a detention queue at the port facility. She was separated from her family. Her daughter, young, perhaps 6 of your years, was being processed in a different line. The woman was not violent. She did not rage. She crouched to the floor when she could see her daughter was frightened, and she began to sing. Quietly, just within the child's hearing. Almost eyes moved, tracking something only Thesros could see. The song was not known to me. It was small, it was simple. My instruments recorded it, analyzed it, found it unremarkable by any metric of cultural complexity." Another pause. "I have thought about it for 18 days. I cannot find the metric that explains why I cannot stop thinking about it." Dex was looking at the floor. Mara watched Thesros. "The data core," she said carefully, "contains this kind of material." "The data core contains everything," Thesros said. 12,000 hours of observation, medical patterns under duress, grief responses, resource allocation during scarcity, cooperation indices, trail frequencies, the bioluminescence pulsed, and songs, and what people eat on birthdays, and who they call when they are frightened, and who does not call. The almost eyes found Mara's. "My high command does not want this data to locate human weakness. They have located human weakness already. They want this data to understand why human weakness does not terminate, why you continue, why the woman in the queue separated from her daughter sang instead of broke." The room was very quiet. Outside, something in the sky discharged, and the walls flickered. "And you think," Mara said, "that if they understand it, they can use it to stop you from continuing?" "I think," said Thesros, "that I am no longer certain the High Command's mission is one I can complete." She'd run 100 cons. She knew the shape of a story designed to earn trust. She'd built them herself, custom-fitted to targets, beautiful as clockwork and just as cold. She sat with the possibility that she was inside one now, that Thesros was better at this than she was, that the alien had read 18 months of human behavioral data and construct precisely the appeal most likely to move her. She sat with it honestly, the way she'd learned to sit with uncomfortable things. Then she thought about the woman in the queue and the song, the 6-year-old in a different line. "Dex," she said, "get the secondary case from the room, the hardened one." He looked at her. He knew what that meant. The hardened case was for when the primary plan had already died. "You sure?" "I'm not sure of anything," she said. "Get the case." She looked at Thesros while Dex left. "How many assessors are there?" "In total, 41, scattered across your continents." "And the data cores. Each assessor carries one. They are singular. There is no central copy until delivery. So if we took yours, you would have one of 41. Insufficient for the High Command's purpose. They require consensus data." Alien's head tilted again. That wrong angle. You are wondering whether 41 is a tractable number. Everything's a tractable number, said. It wasn't a plan yet. It was the shape of a plan, the outline drawn in air. She'd built operations from less. She thought of her mother. A specific, unwanted thought, who had once told her that she had a gift for seeing how things could go and a failure for letting them. She hadn't spoken to her mother in 4 years. Her mother had sent a message on Mara's last birthday that she hadn't answered. She thought of this now, in a conference room with a defecting alien, the sky doing impossible things as outside, and she felt the specific weight of it like a stone she'd been carrying for so long she'd stopped noticing it. She was 37 years old. She had been for a very, very long time, very good at leaving. The network I work with, she said. They have reach. If the data you have is what you say, if it can tell us where the other assessors are deployed, it can, Thesros said. Then this isn't a retrieval anymore. She heard Dex's footsteps in the corridor. This is something different. Yes, the alien said. I suspected that was what it would become. Dex came back with the hardened case and read the room in a single glance the way he always could. The skill she'd always admired in him, the thing that made them functional as partners despite everything. He set the case down and sat. He didn't ask. He waited. We're going to need the Thessaloniki cell, Mara said, and the Budapest node, if it's still running. That woman Yeva in Kiev who owes us something. She owes us a lot, Dex said. Good, she'll need to pay. She pulled out her planner, actual paper, because the Vethkari had signal intelligence that was better than anything she wanted to bet her life on, and began to write. The movements were the same movements she'd made at 100 planning tables in 100 rooms. She'd planned small cons and large ones. She'd planned her own escapes from her mother's house when she was 16, from a bad partnership in Zagreb, from 3 different kinds of love that had asked too much of her. This was different in scale. Was it the same in nature? Thesros watched her write with something that might have been curiosity, or might have been something the alien species felt that had no human equivalent. Mara didn't look up. Can you communicate with the other assessors? She asked. Through channels the High Command does not currently monitor. They believe assessors in the field should feel isolated. It is a management philosophy. Management philosophy. Despite everything, something at the corner of her mouth moved. Yeah, that tracks. She worked for 90 minutes. Dex ran communications. Thesros provided location data from the core in a format that Mara's network contact translated into operational nodes. The Thessaloniki cell confirmed, Budapest confirmed. Yeva in Kiev sent back 3 words. Finally, something real. ... By the time the shape of it was solid enough to hold, the sky outside had gone to a deep, bruised green that she'd learned meant the Vethkari were repositioning orbital assets. She had a window, maybe 6 hours. She looked up from the planner. Thesros was watching her with that still, deep quality, like water. Why me, she said, the intermediaries? Why route it to someone like me? The brief described you as someone who understands the difference between what things are worth and what people pay for them. The alien paused. It also noted that you have not spoken to your mother in 4 years. The room was very quiet. The dossier was thorough, Thesros continued. Your mother transmitted a message to you on a significant date. You did not respond. The alien seemed to be searching for something relevant to the research. This category of human behavior, the severing. We observe it frequently. It correlates with other data points. High individual capability, low integration into support structures, elevated willingness to take high-stakes risks. Useful profile for a job like this, Mara said carefully. Yes. I found myself, again that fractional pause, I found myself thinking of the woman in the queue, and her daughter, and the song, and I thought, there are humans who have severed those connections, and humans who have not, and neither group breaks the way we expect. The severed ones persist through stubbornness, the connected ones persist through something else, something I do not yet have a word for. Love, Dex said simply, without looking up from the communications rig. Thesros was quiet for a long time. I have encountered that word at a frequency that suggests importance, the alien said. I have not yet. The pulsing light along the ribcage changed rhythm, briefly, successively modelled it. Mara picked up the planner and looked at what she'd built. It was good. It was better than good. It was the kind of operational architecture that would have made her proud in a different life, in a normal world, on a normal job. 41 targets, 41 data cores, a network of people she'd burned and borrowed from and dealt with honestly and dishonestly, and every way in between. People who were still in it for their own reasons, which were various and human and complicated. She was going to ask them to risk everything on a play that depended on an alien defector's word. She thought of her mother. She pulled out her phone. The signal was unreliable, but it was still there, patchwork and stubborn, the same way everything human seemed to be. She typed a message. It wasn't long. It didn't explain the 4 years. It didn't apologize, because an apology that short would have been a lie, and she'd given her mother enough of those. It said, "I'm okay, I'm working on something. I'll call when it's done. Happy birthday," I remembered. Her mother's birthday had been 11 days ago. She'd remembered at the time and done nothing with the memory, the way she'd been doing nothing with it for years. She sent the message before she could think about it more. Then she closed the planner and looked at Thesros. "The operation moves in 6 hours. I need you in communication range of the other assessors throughout. If any of them have doubts." "They will have doubts," Thesros said. "Vethkari, we are built for doubt. It is our primary epistemological mode." "Good," she said, "then tell them what you told me. Tell them about the woman in the queue. Tell them about the song." The alien regarded her. "You believe that will be sufficient?" "I believe it's true," Mara said. "And I believe truth is harder to dismiss than argument. I've been running long enough to know the difference." Dex was already on his feet. The hardened case was packed. The operation was real. 6 hours later, across 17 time zones, 41 data cores were in the hands of the Resistance Network. The consensus data that Vethkari High Command needed, the 12,000 hours, the grief responses, the cooperation indices, the songs and the birthdays, and the names of who you called when you were frightened, was gone from their reach, not destroyed, just moved into human hands, where it turned out to mean something completely different. Thesros stood in the ruin of the operations coordination point, a basement in what used to be a hotel, full of the smell of burned wire and the particular silence of something finished, and watched Mara Solis type a response into her phone. The screen lit her face from below. She was reading something. "Your mother," the alien said. She wrote back. Mara looked up. Her expression had the quality of someone who has carried a stone for a long time and has just, without deciding to, set it down. She said she knew I'd remember. "Mothers," Thesros said, and something in the alien's voice had the quality of a notation being filed. Not clinical, not cold, but careful, like someone writing down a thing they intend to understand better later. "Yeah," said Mara, "mothers." She pocketed the phone. She picked up her bag. She looked at the alien who had defected from an empire, who had watched humanity for 18 months and come away unable to deliver its weakness on a platter, who had found that the data contained something for which no metric existed. "You said your research was inconclusive," she said. "I did." "Is it still?" Thesros considered. The bioluminescence along the ribcage pulsed, settled, pulsed again. "Less so," the alien said. Mara Solis nodded once. Then she went up the stairs toward whatever came next, and Dex was already waiting at the top, and outside. The sky was doing things skies weren't built to do, but they were outside in it, and they were moving, and they were not done. Nobody'd told the Vethkari that was the part they should have studied hardest, the not-doneness of humanity. The way humans hit every reasonable endpoint of collapse and then, for no reason any model could fully capture, just kept going, kept singing in the queue, kept writing back to say, "I knew you'd remember." Kept building operations in basements and sending messages they should have sent 4 years earlier. It was Thesros would later write in a report that the High Command never received, because the data core was gone, single most destabilizing characteristic humanity possessed. Not the weapons, not the stubbornness, not even the adaptability. The way they insisted on being known by the people they loved, even after everything, even when it cost them, even when it was too late to do anything with it except try. It was not a vulnerability. The Vethkari had made a significant error, and somewhere above a ruined city, in the pulsing bruise-coloured light of a sky that was learning, slowly, what it was dealing with, 41 data cores sang their small and irreducible truths into hands that knew what they were.